Well, hello and welcome to another one of my rambles as I ramble. This time I'm back in London, and yeah, I'm going to do a thing on Tottenham Court Road. For this is where I am. I'm at the very top of Tottenham Court Road. All right, yeah, it's called Tottenham Court Road. Gets its name from Tottenham Hall, which was a manor house. You see this big building here? That's called Horseshoe Tower now, right? But yeah, that's where Tottenham Hall was. It was turned into a pub and called the Adam and Eve, and that was demolished in the 60s, and they built Horseshoe Tower. Sorry, I had a pause then. Yeah, it's called Horseshoe Tower because to the left and to the right that way is the Euston Road, and I don't know about you, but I can't hear the name Euston Road without hearing Richard Burton in Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds saying that there was a dozen dead bodies in the Euston Road. Anyway, things of note, all right? I'm going to pause because there's people coming as usual. So I'm going to walk down the Tottenham Court Road, pointing out things, well, I think are of interest. Bloody people. I thought being here at 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning, there wouldn't be anyone around, but it's the London Marathon today, and I think, yeah, there's a lot of people in town. Anyway, Warren Street Underground Station. I'm pointing that out because, yeah, there's a early 70s British horror film called Deathline with Donald Pleasance in it. And the premise of that is that while building part of the London Underground, there's a cave-in. Oh, bus has spoilt my view. Back in Victorian times, they're building an extension to the underground, and yeah, there's a cave-in, and the people that were down there were considered dead. They weren't. They'd just been buried alive. Survived and bred a race of cannibals that would come up at night out onto the underground and grab people to take them in to eat them. It's a quirky little film. Is it Mind the Gap? That's the only words these people know, is Mind the Gap, because they hear it all day long. That's the only words they've got. Worth checking out, all right? So that's Warren Street Underground Station. I'm going to go down the road pointing things out that I think are interesting. I don't know about you. So I'll be back shortly. So when you're in this part of London, this is a good landmark. It's a good way of just figuring out where you are in relation to anything. If you're of a certain age like me, that's the post office tower. It's now called the Telecom Tower. Back in my day, up there at the top, there was a revolving restaurant, but there was a minor terrorist attack. They set a bomb off in the gents' toilet. I think it was about 1970, and since then it's been closed. It's a listed building. They're not going to do much to it. I think there's talk about developing the lower section into apartments or something. And there used to be big telecom dishes in the middle there, but they were taken off a few years ago because yeah, structurally they weren't safe. So yeah, that's the Telecom Tower, and as I say, when you're in the West End, if you want to know where you are in relation to anything, look up and find that. Right, I'm heading south, for this is Tottenham Court Road, all right? So for a very long time, it wasn't a road. Basically, this was a dirt track which led from down there, London, down there. This was a dirt track going north, that away, up to the villages like Hampstead and that. And in the 1700s, this was a notorious area for highwaymen. Highwaymen would rob folk as they were returning to their villages. Also, the fields either side of the track, they used to have bare knuckle fighting fairs here. Hard to imagine now, but it was so. Now, up until recently, that development area which you can see just there, that was an empty site, and it's been empty since the Second World War, and it was a place of note because that's where the last of the V2 rockets came down. So there's Houston Tower is at one end, and at the other end is Center Point, and between the two it's 3/4 of a mile long. I'll just point out. Right, well, this beautiful building is Hill and Sons, or Hills, which is can you call it a department store? It's like a furniture store. Very pricey but very good quality, and it's been going for a long time. In fact, I noticed all the gold at the top. Yeah, sorry, it's been going for quite a while. In fact, during the Second World War, their textile department was given over to making parachutes. All right. Also, behind here, all right, there were cow sheds which belonged to a farmer called Christopher Capper, and that's why one of these roads at the back is called Capper Street. It gets its name from that. The other thing to note is that church over there, just past the Costa Coffee. All right. Back in the day, that was called Whitfield Church, and this area wasn't only notorious for highwaymen, but it was also for infamous for body snatchers. And what date was it? 1776. There was a stash of 20 bodies were found in a shed around the back of that church. Anyway, that splendid building there is Googe Street Underground Station, and I'll talk about that in a second. So yeah, Googe Street Underground had deep level tunnels, and during the war they were used as underground shelters for the during the air raids, and they were quite extensive, and that there is part of it, and that is now called the Eisenhower Center. They were offered up to him during the war. There's no record as to whether he actually used that or not during the bombing raids, but the American troops were stationed there just before the D-Day landings took place. Anyway, going around, it says, I've just passed a sign saying Tottenham Court Road is closed. That might help me. That might mean less traffic, might mean less people. God knows what would have happened if I'd come up here yesterday afternoon. I mean, I keep getting looks and interrupted at 10:30 on a Sunday morning, so God knows what it would have been like yesterday. So there's the tower, still keeping an eye on us. So as I say, this area was notorious for body snatchers, and that fantastic pub there, the Rising Sun pub, was a haunt of theirs. This is where they would meet up and compare bodies, I suppose. So yeah, that was where they used to meet up. This season, I've just noticed at the top there's an arch with a little devil looking down at me. This isn't the original. This was built in 1890 on the site of the original Rising Sun pub. I know that in the 1980s this was converted into an Elvis Presley themed bar, but that only lasted a few years, and then quite rightly it was all put back to how it used to be. A fantastic building. Well, I've realised Tottenham Court Road is closed for construction work. It's nothing to do with the London Marathon, but that's aiding me. I've just realised that there's no traffic. I can stand in the middle of the road. So this area, we're getting near to the bottom. At the bottom where Centre Point is, that's the junction of Tottenham Court Road, Oxford Street, New Oxford Street and Charing Cross Road. And I know this area very, very well from my college years in the late 70s. When I was at college, I was studying electronics. I wasn't into it, but a lot of my classmates were, and we used to come up here because back then in the 70s and 80s, it was all electronic shops up here. And I don't mean, you know, hi-fi and stuff. I mean electrical goods, you know, resistors, capacitors, multimeters, oscilloscopes, all the stuff you need if you're a budding electrical bod, which I wasn't, but my friends were, and it was a trip up to London. I'd go around the comic shops. So we're almost at the bottom. I'm thinking this road closure is actually going to benefit me in a minute. Right, so that's Tottenham Court Road there, that's Oxford Street, that's New Oxford Street, that's Charing Cross Road. What I need to point out, and then I'm gonna get away from folk, just there, I know I've got bloody bells. That's the Dominion, the Dominion Theatre there. In my day, that was Dominion Cinema, alright? Now I'm just gonna move out of the way. That's better. I'm just tucked down in a corner here. Hopefully you can still hear me. So yeah, the Dominion Theatre is just there. Before that was a theatre, there was a brewery on the site, a multi-level, huge, great brewery called the Horseshoe Brewery. All right, and it was, as I say, it's on multi-levels, and on those levels you had these enormous vats, 20-foot tall vats. Each one could hold 3,500 barrels of ale. All right, and what was the date and the time? 5:30 p.m. I've been upstaged by bells, just like when I was in Germany. 5:30 p.m. on Monday the 17th of October 1814. These great vats, oak vats, were strapped together with iron bands. One of the iron bands on one of them snapped, which made the whole thing collapse, which made the next one collapse, etc., etc. And you had this utter destruction as they all toppled over, releasing a 15-foot tsunami of beer, flooding out the back and into this area, right? This area behind Centre Point, or this is where I am, was the St Giles's Rookery. And I've mentioned rookeries before. That's like a huge, great slum area. In fact, that's St Giles's Church, upstaging me at the moment. Yeah, no, a tsunami of beer flowed down into the rookery, down into people's basements. 8 people were either crushed or drowned because of it. But it was deemed an act of God, and nobody was arrested for it or anything. And that's that. And then yeah, the brewery was demolished in the 1920s. Anyway, I'm almost done. I've got one more thing to talk about, which is this building here, which is very, very new. It's in the last 5 years. That's Tottenham Court Road underground station, and yeah, it was a massive construction project and took ages. Thing of note there, at the beginning of this I said about Warren Street, Death Line was filmed there. That was filmed on the Northern Line, the northbound Northern Line. Well, here at Tottenham Court Road on the Northern Line, northbound, is in American Werewolf in London, that city gent late at night on the underground getting his a little bit of chocolate out of the chocolate machine, and is set upon by the werewolf on the escalators. Yeah, that was filmed just here. All right, that's me done. Little ramble, as I said, as I've rambled. Hope you found something of interest in it, and I'll be back with a modelling project soon.